Buzzkills. Today, we're going to talk about how providers know everything about pain management for abortion care and how that knowledge is useful for other repro health care.
And anti-abortion fake clinics go digital. We dig into how these predatory pregnancy poachers are rapidly moving into the telehealth space, what they're up to, and how you can protect yourself.
Also, Kliegman, co-founder and executive director of Care for All, is here to discuss building a community-centered clinic in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
And comedian, matchmaker, lawyer, and mom Yasmin Elhady will chat about Muslim Matchmaker, her dating reality show that's streaming on Hulu.
All this coming up on this episode of the Feminist Buzzkills podcast, the show that just realized the VMAs were this week because we were kind of busy focusing on other big news.
And by that, we mean the new Girl Scout cookie drops.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
I know you're devastated that the s'mores are gone. Sorry.
S'mores are gone. I'm crying. I'm Moji and I'm joined by my special guest host, Alyssa Al-Dookhi, aka Dooks. Liz is in Colombia screening No One Asked You, the documentary about the work we do at Abortion Access Front, and she's chatting with abortion rights activists. When she's back, she'll share a special interview with activist Ileana Rodriguez from Barranquilla, Colombia. Hey, Dooks, welcome to the pod.
Hey, Moji. So glad to be back. Before we get into the show, we all know our listeners are watching the news, and we just want to say gun violence is an American epidemic, and we want to take this time to remember that violent rhetoric against abortion leads to violence against abortion providers.
And to understand some stats, since 1977, there have been 11 murders of providers. Since 2023, there's been 38 reports of assault and battery, 3 reports of arson at clinics, and 296 reported threats of death or harm on abortion providers. Gun violence is an American epidemic that we could address if there was political will to do so.
We do this work today and every day to stand with the brave people on the front lines of providing compassionate and comprehensive health care.
We love our abortion providers.
We love them. And believe it or not, lots of things happened this week. Here are the Abobo highlights and lowlights with this week's steaming news dump. Moji?
Now it's time for a steaming dump of this week's abortion news. Amy Coney Barrett is going on a Nobody Asked for This book tour where, among other cursed things, she defends her opinion on Roe, saying that the court should never have decided that we have a right to abortion. That's right. Amy Coney, Barrel of Lies, says that her personal opinion always stays out of her judicial ones. It's a total coincidence that she happens to have 7 children and a culty Catholic faith and a blood pact with the Heritage Foundation. Sure.
Remember the big bullshit bill with all those horrendous cuts to Planned Parenthood? Well, we were excited last week because a federal judge said Planned Parenthood could keep receiving Medicaid funding while the lawsuit played out. Hooray! But cut to this week, an appeals court was like, psych, and blocked those funds again. Welcome to pro-abortion whiplash. Medicaid was cool on Monday and dead to us by Thursday, giving the Trump administration the green light to divert those funds from Planned Parenthood to planned polio outbreaks.
And an appeals court has upheld the $83 million judgment against Trump for defaming E. Jean Carroll, saying, sorry, sucker, presidential immunity can't save your ass now. Rumor has it he's written a letter of appeal, and our sources on the inside say his handlers have successfully talked him out of sending it with a hand-drawn card.
Next up, Moji's got the deets on the anti-abortion womb weasel's latest plot to poach pregnant people.
That's right. Well, it turns out abortion care via telehealth has been one of the greatest weapons against abortion bans. It's an effective way to easily get abortion care to people in states where abortion is banned or just where it's hard to get to a clinic. Well, fake clinics, also known as crisis pregnancy centers, have seen that. And of course, they need to insert themselves between patients and real medical care. This is crazy because we talk about fake clinics all the time, but I just want to sort of have a level set. Fake clinics or crisis pregnancy centers, also known as anti-abortion centers, are usually religious-run organizations that exist solely to dissuade pregnant people from having abortions. But what makes it even worse is that rather than just say outright, like, we don't want you to have an abortion, they like to use deceptive and predatory practices to achieve this.
Not only do they have these tactics to lure people in and lie to them and waste their time, but they outnumber real clinics by a lot, by 3 to 1. And they reel you in, waste your time, lie about the dangers of abortion care, lie to people about how far along they are, and about whether they can get medical care or not.
Yeah, and also they're really good at getting money from states. So a lot of times states that refuse to actually provide real abortion care will absolutely throw their money at these CPCs under these abortion alternative banners and a lot of times siphon money from TANF in lieu of actually giving people, families the help they need. They talk to families about not having abortion. It's really kind of terrifying. But also what's terrifying that they do is that they collect people's sensitive data.
Right, because they're not in it to help babies. They want to get your
No.
information. And so they do this by like stealing the Wi-Fi of the clinic nearby and scraping people's data that whoever logs on to their free Wi-Fi.
Or even just when you go into their clinic or if you go into one of these fake telehealths, they ask you all kind of information that a real doctor would never ask you.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're not real medical clinics, they're not bound by HIPAA. When you go to a real doctor and you share some of your private information, some of your sensitive information, there are rules to protect that information, but because they're not real clinics, they don't have to abide by that. And while, of course, we know that our data is important, it's really, really concerning in places where the law enforcement or prosecutors are really happy to criminalize pregnancy outcomes.
Yes. And since Black and brown people are most negatively affected by this, the government having all of their information is a scary place to be in this point in time. So, what we're seeing now, Moji, is that they're moving to the internet.
Yeah. So previously, right, like I think there were 46 telehealth options of fake clinics in 2023. And generally, when you hear people tell their fake clinic stories, I have one of my own. You kind of walk into a place, they have these signs, pregnant, need help, and you go and you get, usually they'll ask you to take a pregnancy test. And then if you end up positively pregnant, they'll give you a whole lot of information rather than real health care. When I went to a fake clinic, they actually were like, oh, we don't have the abortion pill here now, come back in a week, which is just a way to like drag out someone's time so that they can't get care in time. So there were 46 fake telehealth clinics in 2023. As of 2024, there was 125. That's 176
Oh my God.
percent increase. And this also means that in this time where you can like go to Google and maybe look up a fake clinic and maybe you'll end up on one or maybe you'll end up at the Google results, and our exposed fake clinics have already said like this place doesn't do abortion care. And so you can be like, oh, I don't need to go to that. I don't need to walk there. If you just go to this telehealth place and it seems legit, it's a lot harder to put these safeguards in place to keep people from walking into there and surrendering their important information.
It's basically like the opposite of a safety net, where they're just catching all of the people that they can't confuse by making their physical clinics look exactly like a real clinic. And you said positively pregnant earlier, and I was like, that's a perfect fake clinic name. They should use that. But now they have these websites, and you haven't even left your house, and you're sitting there hearing that you need to wait to make a decision, that they can reverse your abortion, and all of these other lies in the comfort of your own home, which is a huge violation.
They also will use their telehealth to direct people to physical locations. A fake clinic called the Purple Clinic in Illinois uses their telehealth to move people to their fake clinics in the Chicago area. So just because you're in somewhere like Illinois that actually works to protect abortion care doesn't mean that you're safe from these fake clinics and these fake telehealth clinics.
And not to mention, Illinois is one of those states that is the closest for many people in the South to get to as their last stop for abortion. And if you're doing your research before you travel, hopefully you don't end up on one of these nefarious websites.
And then traveling to a fake clinic to get the care that you need. Like that's a waste of people's money, a waste of people's time and resources. And we already know that having to travel to abortion care is a lot. It's a violation. But having to travel out of state to not abortion care just feels like, I don't know, that'd make me feel murderous.
Yeah. And are there stories of people who've gotten duped by these websites that we're hearing about now?
Well, I was reading that one website said that they are up to 1,000 impressions. I think it was a week or a month. So people, I don't know what is happening precisely to people there, but I know that there was one story about this organization called Discreet Care.
Gross.
And this is particularly insidious because part of what they were doing, part of their model was actually reaching out to actual abortion clinics and actual abortion funds and offering to partner with them by like becoming an affiliate and outsourcing patient travel, patient planning, and client support. And of course, like that sounds weird. So some of the providers sort of did that one more Google, you know what I mean? That little extra research and was like, this doesn't make sense. Also, they were attaching to offering this service like a $1,200 price tag. And
$1,200.
what we know about how abortion funds work and about how the organizations work, most of them are staffed by volunteers. And I think people should absolutely be paid for the work that they do. But for an organization to call and say, like, we are charging this exorbitant amount of money is like, that's a lot. So after they'd done this, one secret shopper, basically posing it as an abortion seeker, went directly to Discreet Care just to get a sense of what they were offering. And they were like, okay, I'm in Idaho. How do I get an abortion? I'm 19 weeks. And first of all, they were like, well, you need to pay us $1,200 upfront. So that number was not just for clinics. It was also for individuals looking for care. And then what they saw they were offering, it was like a Greyhound bus to New Mexico, which is quite the ride. That's like 2 or 3 days in one direction. And still no confirmation that they would get an appointment or actually see a real clinic or an idea of what clinic they would go to. So this level of scam, it was obviously gathering patient information because if the secret shopper had been a real person, they would have already surrendered a lot of information, sensitive medical data about the gestational area and their pregnancy that they're in. Also, if they'd had $1,200 to just surrender via Cash App, they would have just possibly lost that money.
100%.
Or even if they hadn't lost that money, or if they had could go through their financial institution and get it reimbursed for them, that's a lot of money to try to get back in a really sensitive time, like when you were trying to terminate a pregnancy.
I mean, this example is just like showing you all of the different barriers that they've set up for a financial barrier so that you're not able to change your mind, technological barrier, and then also the creepy part about them trying to outsource patient travel and information through actual abortion providers. This is insidious.
Yes.
So what can we do about it?
Well, we know that a lot of the strength that the fake clinics have lies in their deception and essentially people being unaware that they exist. Again, for me, when I went to a fake clinic, I didn't know what a fake clinic was. So I was not at all on the lookout for why I would end up in a place that congratulated me on being a mother the minute I had a positive pregnancy test, right? So one of the things that you can do, and we do with exposed fake clinics, is to let people know that they exist, how to spot them, and what are the tells.
That website again is exposedfakeclinics.com. And then on the other end, know where the real care is. If you are on the internet, head straight to Plan C Pills, ineedana.com, Abortion Finder, our website, our Charlie chatbot, your local abortion funds. There are plenty of actual abortion resources where you can get your abortion. And know that those abortion pills are safe and you can get it in all 50 states.
It really helps if you know for sure that the abortion pill is safe, because when you know that the abortion pill is safe, when you know how it works and you go to a website and it says the dangers of chemical abortion, you can kind of say, well, this is a red flag.
Yes.
Also, one of the ways you can protect yourself is consider advanced provision. And this is a way you can go to any of the websites we've indicated. You can ask for advanced provision and you can have abortion pills on your person so that if you need them, rather than being desperate and scrambling, you have what you need in that moment to get the care that you need. And so it'll be harder for someone to scam you when you know how it works.
That's right. Make sure you check out the storage instructions on all of those. But abortion pills can last up to 3 years if you store them correctly.
Woohoo!
Love that for us.
And so as we're going into, we talked about these terrible clinics, but fundamentally, telehealth is amazing. And it has been an incredible tool for abortion care for people when it's harder to get to a clinic. But we do need in-person care. People need in-person care. Clinics are necessary and they fight to stay afloat. And even though the care that they do is essential for abortion, it's also essential for many facets of reproductive care. And Dooks, I'd like you to walk us into IUDs if you don't mind.
I would be IUD delighted. I love IUDs. If you know me, you know I love IUDs. IUDs are one of the most simple, easy, they're 99% effective types of birth control. You don't have to take it every day. It's hard to fuck it up. However, getting a small medicinal scorpion inserted into your cervix inevitably comes with pain, But only recently have people started having conversations about managing that pain, which some have compared as being as bad as childbirth.
I mean, I didn't do childbirth that way, so I couldn't talk about it. I mean, they just cut a little hole in my tummy and, what is it? What did the Trump say a couple years ago? He said they ripped the baby out. That baby's 10, so whatever. Most IUD insertions are done in clinic with just oral painkillers like ibuprofen or Tylenol. But just like my dentist numbs my mouth, there's local anesthesia for the rest of my body. What gives?
Yeah, like lidocaine is available and has been shown to significantly reduce insertion pain, but it routinely hasn't been offered. I mean, I know whenever I've had a conversation with anybody about getting their IUD, they're told just take a Tylenol. But do you know who does offer lidocaine, Moji?
Abortion providers.
You're damn right.
I actually didn't know about lidocaine for IUD insertion until it was a TikTok, I think, from Dr. Genius, who was a guest on the show.
Love Dr. Genius.
A couple months ago. And she is an OBGYN, and she talked about lidocaine for IUD insertion. And I was like, oh, my ears perked up. And so she's an OBGYN who offers it, but also abortion providers offer lidocaine.
79% of patients who do receive lidocaine were treated by doctors who were board certified in complex family planning, aka trained in everything, and everything includes abortion.
Because abortion is healthcare.
Wow, it's so crazy how everything we talk about comes back to the same thing. Like, because they're trained in abortion care, that's where using lidocaine is standard, because a crazy idea that if someone is rummaging around in your nether regions, like maybe you should have some pain management. So they use that knowledge and apply it to IUD insertions.
And it's so important because, again, as you said, IUDs are magical, but like a cervix is a tiny little pinhole of a hole. And yeah, sticking a scorpion in there, it's a lot.
Yikes.
It's a lot for people. Yeah. And so what we're saying is why abortion providers matter. They are more likely to provide pain management for IUDs and other gynecological procedures because they care about patient autonomy, because they have to reach people in a moment when they really need deep empathy, informed consent. We need more abortion providers to give this full spectrum of reproductive care.
Yeah. And even recently, in May 2025, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists updated their guidance recommending pain management for IUDs. But many doctors still say, just grin and bear it.
I was on a doctor website today that essentially said, oh, you just need an Advil an half hour before you'll be fine.
What does an Advil work for? Seriously, have you ever had back pain actually go away from a freaking Advil? Tell me right now.
No.
I dare you. No.
No. Advil is not for anything that really hurts.
Thank you so much. So why aren't we getting this kind of treatment? It's because the powers that be kind of want us to live in pain. And how does this relate to abortion even harder is because of all of the restrictions on abortions, fewer abortion clinics means fewer providers being trained to offer adequate pain management for IUDs. We've seen medical students shortage. We've talked to Pamela Merritt from Med Students for Choice talking about how hard the work has been for her and their organization, and other numbers like the obstetricians and gynecologists leaving places like Idaho. So if you live in a rural area and you don't want to have kids anymore, who are you going to go to and who is left? And how are they trained?
Or in what state are they going to let you have an IUD, right? Like, it's like access to IUD is deeply important, but also maybe not being traumatized by your birth control. Also,
ideally, yeah. So the big picture is here, attacks on abortion access ripple out. It restricts not just abortion, but contraception access, pain management, and overall reproductive autonomy. And I think everybody's got a personal story about it.
I think everyone does. And Dooks, you were telling me about one. I would love for you to share with everyone your personal story about recent care.
Yes, I had an IUD inserted recently. And right before that, they did a biopsy. And not fun. And it wasn't the clamp one. They were like, oh, this one hurts less. It's like a little pipette. And we just twist it and it scrapes. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a walk in the park. Should be fine.
That sounds painful.
It was literally like a miniature apple corer for my cervix. And I get in there and the nurse's assistant, God bless her, she goes, "So when did you take your ibuprofen?" I said, "Nobody told me to take an ibuprofen." Her face went gray. She was like, "You're going to feel some cramping." I was like, "Your face is giving me more than cramping. You seem terrified."
I was waiting for you to say discomfort because I love when doctors say discomfort and what they mean is pain.
No, cramping was like the most absurd choice she could have chosen because I screamed. I've never screamed bloody murder like I did in my life. Let me tell you, an ibuprofen wouldn't have done shit for me. I really would have loved some lidocaine in that moment. And then I did get to be out for my IUD insertion, but thank goodness.
Thank goodness. Can you imagine pain on top of pain on top of pain?
And no, the first time was enough.
Years ago, I knew a woman who'd had 3 children by C-section, and she said when she went to get her IUD, they were like, "You'll be fine. You've had 3 children."
Out of where?
C-sections. Is that you don't use your cervix.
Yeah.
So some people report that after they've given birth, it does actually minimize the IUD insertion pain because their cervix has been stretched and closed, and so it's just a little less. But when you have 3 C-sections, your cervix has done jack shit. And it's kind of wild because IUDs are inserted by OBGYNs, and so you'd think they'd think it through. You know, the doctor who focuses on the bathing suit area would have an idea of like what happens down there with your cervix. But this is distressing. And this actually leads me to our first guest, because our first guest looked around Milwaukee where they lived and said, "Oh, we could have a community-based place where people receive comprehensive care, both abortion care and other reproductive care from their neighbors who they trust." And then they went on to build it. So here to talk about the simply revolutionary clinic model at Care for All, please welcome the co-founder and executive director, Ali Kliegman. Hi, Ali.
Hi.
Care for All is based in Wisconsin and opened pretty recently. So the state of Wisconsin has been a hotbed of abortion rights ping pong since forever, but especially after the Dobbs decision in 2022, when providers stopped providing care because of an 1849 law that banned the procedure until it was ruled unenforceable in 2023. So what made you look at this hot mess and decided that you needed to get involved?
Well, I grew up here, and most of my career I've spent in cities that have a lot of access. And when I moved back to Wisconsin, I saw how little access there was. So when there wasn't access to abortion at clinics in Wisconsin for 15 months, things shifted. People started traveling out of state. People started getting meds in other ways. And I really wanted there to be a nonprofit independent clinic. That's really what it is. Planned Parenthood reopened. We had another independent clinic that opened the following year. But the model of clinic that I'd seen in other places and I'd worked at in other cities didn't exist in Wisconsin. And, we heard a lot of, well, maybe you should wait until after the election. Maybe you should wait until after the Wisconsin Supreme Court next election. And maybe we should just be okay with people going to Illinois because it's a one-day procedure there and there's a lot less barriers. And I frankly was not okay with any of that. I feel really strongly that people deserve to get care in their communities, where they live, where the staff can, talk to them about local resources, where they can come for their aftercare visit. Even though there is care in Illinois for one day, that is not realistic for a lot of people to even travel that or take off a day of work to get to Illinois. We provide same and next day appointments and people are in and out. So for us, we really wanted to be an option that was really rooted in our local community. And on top of that, as a nonprofit, we early on decided that we were going to be a model that did not turn anyone away. And lots of people say that. And, we wanted to really do it from the moment they call. They know that whatever the price is, it doesn't matter. And so we've essentially created a pay what you can model. And that's really new for Wisconsin, but also for the independent abortion clinic. I would say all abortion clinics. And it's been amazing. And we feel really validated now in our choice to open this clinic and that there were needs that weren't being met locally. And we don't do a screening. We don't do means testing. We don't ask anyone to have to prove anything to us. They just say, this is what I can pay, or I can't pay anything. And that's it. That's the whole conversation. It's been great for our clients and it's been great for staff because there's a lot of moral injury that comes when you have to turn people away from life-saving care.
I want to just acknowledge having to travel for abortion care is manufactured harm. And so I love that your clinic is standing there to mitigate that harm. On your website, it says you are a community clinic. It's Care for All Community Clinic. Is this funding model that you're speaking of, or this sort of the way you accept payment, the part that makes it a community clinic? How is this different from the other providers around Wisconsin or even in the country?
Yeah, it's definitely one part of it. I mean, the Care for All, we use that term for so many things, for our clients, for our staff, for our volunteers. In terms of like the clients we serve and the community, I mean, certainly we are seeing people from all over the state, but we are also seeing a lot of people from Milwaukee County and the surrounding metro area. And people, when they call, are like, I live down the block from your clinic. I know exactly where you are. When they come, they often might know someone who works at our clinic, because we have a very small team. Every single person who works at our clinic has worked at a nonprofit or a nonprofit healthcare center in Milwaukee. And so we've had instances where like, hey, you were the nurse who delivered my baby, who was there when I delivered my baby. It's just, everyone here is very involved in the community, is from here or has been here a long time, and really understands the ecosystem. So if someone says, I need to get an IUD after my procedure, like, we know 5 places to send them or where we can't send them. We're just very in touch with what's happening. And, you know, also I don't want to share too much about our doctor and our nurses, but some of them also still work in other places, in birthing spaces, in other pregnancy spaces. And it just has made it really nice for continuing care, for doing follow-ups, referrals. It's been very seamless. You know, we get a lot of informal messages from providers at other places who are hearing about us. And, you know, if a provider finds out one of their clients has a fetal anomaly, like, they can just text us and we can follow up with them and let them know how it went. And it's, again, having this small local staff makes that possible.
So the community speaks not just to sort of how you accept anyone at whatever place they need, but actually just that you consider yourselves and are very much a part of the community that you're serving. I love that.
Yeah. So Wisconsin, because of the 24-hour waiting period, the first day is in person. You get counseling and an ultrasound. And we are the only clinic in the state that does not pay for that day 1 visit. So basically the barrier to entry for getting that day 1 visit with us is nothing. Whereas there are people who delay even getting their first ultrasound because they can't come up with the money for the day 1. So that's a barrier we remove right off the bat so people don't have to delay. The other thing I want to say is we are extremely family friendly. A lot of us who work here have kids. We understand how hard it is to work and have kids and get care and do all these things. So we are very clear with our clients that they should bring their kids if that's what makes sense for them. We've had people bring babies. We've had people bring 4 kids under 5. Like, we make it work, whether, you know, we have spaces for them to hang out. I've watched kids while their parents got procedures. Like, it just seems the most humane thing to us. If that's what someone wants to have their family there, they need to have their family there, especially if they're traveling. Like, we want to make it as easy for them as possible. And honestly, having kids in our clinic, like hearing them laugh and play with toys, we all love it.
And it acknowledges that most people who have abortions are already parents.
Exactly.
And so they shouldn't have another barrier to medical care. I think that's so good. I feel like I have a child. I'm a parent and I like to take my kid everywhere.
And it demystifies
everything and helps them like see the world. Like, this is what adult looks like. It's boring.
Well, we have a lot of good snacks. So kids, you know, they like coming. We got a lot of good stuff for them. We also, you know, we've been very intentional about making relationships with people. Like, we all have relationships with Milwaukee, but also just sort of in the micro location, the community that we live in. The mayor actually happens to live around the block from our clinic we're in a small neighborhood and it's just random, but like, he came and visited, and, you know, we're really proud of this thing that we see as a really like a contribution to the community, and people are really grateful.
So I want to step back a little bit from you guys existing as you are right now as a new clinic and ask you, what did it take for you to go from concept to clinic in Wisconsin, a state that is not the warmest to abortion rights, and in this current climate where our federal government isn't helpful either?
We hustled. Honestly, I had this idea, you know, my main thing was I had to find someone who would be the medical director. I'm not a physician. And I had someone who we've been talking for a few months, and we did a handshake. We agreed on it, and we opened 367 days later, which is very fast for a nonprofit, considering we had zero money, we didn't have any backers, we didn't have a board, and we just hustled, because the thing with abortion, like, people can't wait. You know, I kept counting down when we'd be like, okay, we're opening in 3 months. That means someone right now is getting pregnant who we can help. Like, there was an urgency. We didn't have our clinic fully decorated when we opened because that wasn't a priority. We wanted to just start providing care and the decorations would come later. We really focused on what we needed. Both of us were great planners. We had everything in place so that when we opened, we'd be ready, to be in touch with abortion funds and practical support organizations and referrals. And I don't know, we hustled. The doctor just jokes that Allie's really good at email. Allie's really good at spreadsheets. So that helps, being super organized, because we have been involved in this community and I've been involved in abortion care for years. A lot of the relationships already existed. So a clinic has not opened in Wisconsin in I don't know how long. There used to be a few more indies in Milwaukee. Everything has closed. And so there was no one to ask advice for, because even though clinics are opening all over the country, every state has different laws.
Right.
We've met with more lawyers than I can count.
I mean, right now there's a moment of stability, but I do feel like, as I said earlier on, there was just this ping pong moment in Wisconsin where it just felt like minute to minute, hour. Okay, if we elect this person, then we get this. If we don't elect this person, then we don't get this. It was a lot going on. I felt like it almost felt hour to hour.
Yeah, and we felt it. I mean, we were planning to open when the most recent Supreme Court election was with Susan Crawford, and just the weight lifted off our shoulders when she won overwhelmingly.
Because abortion is popular.
It was huge. It was a huge weight. We were sort of starting to think about Plan B, not that Plan B. I don't know. I think we've just sort of been moving forward, determined that we were going to do this and we would figure it out. And maybe that was naive, but it just needed to happen. And so we weren't going to stop.
I'm reframing in the coming months naivete as audacity. And so thank you for your audacity pulling this together.
I would constantly say to people throughout the process, I know this is crazy. What are we doing? And then someone once was like, it's not crazy. You're brave. So then I started just changing it all the time.
Yes.
We are brave for doing this. And we did it. And now I want to help everyone else open clinics all over, because we did it and it's doable, because neither of us, had experience doing this, but we figured it out.
So you did this, right? You pulled it together. You're audacious in the face of Wisconsin, and you opened this clinic that seems like a joy and a beauty. Kristen and Lizz come and visit. And then in August, your clinic was targeted by anti-abortion actors and heavily vandalized. Now, violence by antis is an unfortunate fact of life for many clinics, and the defanging of the FACE Act by the Trump administration takes away the little tiny protection providers had. Can you talk about what happened during this incident at Care for All and how you're recovering?
We were really intentional about picking our location, just based on my experience at other clinics and wanting to have the space be as secure as possible. So we're in a building with many tenants. So we made it so it would be very hard to target our specific unit within the building, but the building itself was vandalized. Someone basically broke all the window glass in the front doors to the building, and then that impact shattered the second set of doors. And we don't know this person. We have video footage, but we don't recognize them. There was nothing left behind, no sort of message. We're not sure who they are, why they would be targeting us. But as an abortion clinic, that's the default. We're going to assume they were targeting us. It would be really random otherwise. And I was not sure if I wanted to publicly share about it, just because I don't know. This is the first time I've been through this. I didn't know if it would cause more attention, copycat stuff, but we did ultimately share it, and we got so much support locally, nationally. People sent money, people sent plants. One of our board members brought over supplies to make sandwiches. We had so much love and support. People were checking in on us, and people gave us names of grants we can apply for to get more security equipment, and we are working on that right now. So
in some rare good news this summer, the 1849 abortion ban was fully struck down by the courts. It's not just unenforceable, it's just fully struck down. Does that impact how care will move forward at Care for All?
No, because we were already doing everything. We had talked to so many lawyers about sort of what risks we were taking on, the risks for our medical director, but ultimately we felt comfortable moving forward. And, I think it gives us a little reassurance, but it's not really changing anything in our day-to-day. I'd say most people who would call for appointments, they're not really aware of it. There's still a lot of people in Wisconsin who just think abortion is illegal here because we had a 15-month ban, And also because Trump is president and a lot of people just sort of assume. So we still have a lot of people who aren't aware that they can get care in Wisconsin. And that's part of our goal, is to do as much outreach as possible so people know they have options closer to home.
Do you think that that's basically what's next right now for the Wisconsin abortion rights fight?
Yeah, I think something, from being in other states, something that's missing in Wisconsin is there's not a unified sort of coalition or group of abortion providers who are working towards things together. Sort of different organizations are doing different things and have different priorities. For us, we're really small. We don't have many staff, so we don't have the capacity to do much beyond the work we're doing in the clinic. But certainly we would like to see some of the regulations get overturned. So the 24-hour waiting period, telemedicine ban, physician only, things like that. It weighs on us a lot. And we just have to remind ourselves, what we're doing in here is sacred. It's important.
Right.
It's life-saving. And that is what we can control. You're a
Yes.
doctor, you can do abortions. That's an amazing skill. And that is going to be enough for now.
And we can give care to the people who walk through our doors wherever and whatever capacity they need it. And I feel like that by itself is monumental.
Yeah. We have a lot of people who are sort of in shock when we tell them. They're like, so can I do a payment plan then? And we're like, no. No. And, I know we often ask people to sort of scrounge up whatever money they have, but I don't want someone not paying their rent or their car insurance or buying their kids food because they had to pay for their abortion. No one should be scrounging money. I don't want them paying for their abortion to impact their life. So that's why we do what we do. And it's kind of simple. And it's, one of the reasons we don't need a ton of staff, because we've simplified things.
So I love hearing about Care for All. This is really important work, and I really love this model. And I'm glad that you've built this model so that you can hopefully farm it out to people in other states or in other parts of Wisconsin, so that this kind of model can hit people and really alleviate this trauma phase that we're living in right now. Can you tell our listeners how they can support the important work you're doing at Care for All, and how they can support, people coming in, how they can help support after this violence that was visited upon your clinic in August? I would just like to hear all of the ways that the people who are listening to our pod can pour more love into Wisconsin.
A lot of things in this clinic would not exist without people volunteering. I mean, we've had people clean up the parking lot. We had people renovate the elevator in our building. We had people assemble all the furniture in our clinic. So it really has been a community effort. And in terms of helping us, there's a few ways. If you're local and you want to escort, we do have protesters at every clinic day, and we're always looking for more escorts if you live in southeastern Wisconsin. And you can go to our website to sign up for that, www.careforallwi.org. We also need donations, and we're always fundraising. We have a lot of generous foundations and funds that support us, but the more money we get donated, the more we can do. We really want to start offering gender affirming care and other services that we know people need right now and are not getting at their usual healthcare places. So donating anything helps. Also, just, if you know people in Wisconsin, spreading the word. We really want people in Wisconsin to know about us. We don't have a lot of money for an ad budget, so a lot of it is just word of mouth, local, sharing, any help promoting it. And then with the donation, we're actually starting something really new and fun this week. We're a clinic that doesn't really use a lot of euphemisms or try and make everything pretty. When people come and tour, I show them every single piece of equipment we use to do abortions, because I want to demystify it, even if it's the mayor.
Oh, so you're using medical terms for a medical process?
Yeah.
Wild.
So, and I say, I know you may not be interested, but it's important for me to show you, this is what does the abortions. So we bought a very old used aspirator because, again, we have been very frugal and smart with our money, but that unfortunately, that machine was not going to take us into the care we're now providing in the second trimester. So we got a brand new aspirator. We had some very generous donors provide the money for us to buy a new aspirator. And we're having a naming competition. Have you ever gotten to pick a name for a vacuum aspirator that's used for abortions? I'm guessing not.
Never once.
I'm guessing not. And we just came up with it as a fun idea to fundraise, and we've already gotten some great names. What we're going to do is we'll keep the donating and name suggesting window open for a few weeks. And then in October, we will select sort of the top choices. And then if you want to vote, you can also donate to make a vote on what the name will be. And then we'll name this machine. And, you know, we've sort of named all of our equipment just organically. And it's just, these things don't have to be so serious.
No, and also naming things is fun.
Yeah, no, we named all of our different exam rooms after different abortifacient herbs. Like, we are not precious here. Like, we just try and, you know, see the happiness in what we're doing. And honestly, I've been in other clinic spaces. Our clients are really happy because they're not delaying their care to fundraise. Like, they come in either the day or the next day after they call us. It's seamless. They get great care. They're not having to fundraise. It's really changed the dynamic, and it's honestly, it's been wonderful.
Ali, thank you so much for coming and talking about Care for All. I really enjoyed hearing about this model of clinic, and I cannot wait to see it spread. Thank you for coming by and talking to us.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ali. You can donate to Care for All at careforallwi.org. You can also follow them on Instagram at careforallwi. And please join in on the Name the Aspirator Fund. The link to join it will be in our show notes.
As always, these stories will be in the show notes, and you can find the best, most up-to-the-minute resources on accessing abortion care and funding your care on our website, aafront.org. Our Charlie chatbot on the bottom right will walk anyone anywhere in the country through their options and resources for abortion.
We do this show because this info is not given enough attention in the media. So help us spread the word and show us some love by liking, subscribing, and giving us a 5-star rating. Every bit helps us reach more listeners. Dooks, seriously, what Care for All is doing in Wisconsin is pretty great. Now, we know and our listeners know that abortion is a community good, and their focus on tearing down the barriers to care for their neighbors, especially in this climate, is pretty exciting.
I know. I love that. And similarly, the hosts of Hulu's Muslim Matchmaker are looking out for folks in the Muslim community who are looking for love.
Our next guest is a co-host of the show Muslim Matchmaker on Hulu, where she helps guide young Muslim Americans towards dating with marriage in mind. She's also a lawyer, mother, and comedian, so clearly she can teach us about anything.
I sent my kids to Islamic school because I'm an extremist, and and they're like they taught the Quran there, right? So I was like, oh man, what do I do? Heaven, Harvard. I choose heaven.
Please welcome Yasmin Elhady. Welcome to the show. Oh my gosh, Yasmin. I love that joke for many reasons. Obviously, you chose both for yourself.
I did. I chose both for myself, and I'm hoping that the kids get one. And if they're going to just have one, then let it be heaven, please.
Okay, now, like, you chose both because you are a hijabi of many traits. And as you transition between all the things you do, matchmaker, lawyer, comedian, mom, which one feels most like you? Or alternatively, which role is just easiest and why?
I mean, the mom part is the hardest. I'm just going to start real negative.
Oh, I'm a mom too. I get it.
It's like there's no training. My degrees, they could be incinerated, and my kids just will literally dance over my ashes. Like, they don't care. That's a tough one. But I will say that I feel like I am naturally a comedian, and I've always used comedy to get through life and to try to have a sense of humor about things. And I love imparting that to my kids as well.
It's so funny that you chose comedian as the one that is most like you. Has that always been so, or is that something that you've discovered like as you've evolved as a person?
Well, I've always been kind of funny, but I realized I was funny when I was 8 and I was making fun of teachers in the bathroom, and I would like mock them, you know, because it was so weird. Even if I hear like a funny accent, I'll start doing the accent. And somebody kind of caught wind of me doing that. And I was doing SNL skits for many, many years by myself in a corner. And I started watching SNL when I was 6 years old because I'm a foreign child. And what that means is like, we don't have bedtime. Like, we go to sleep usually at midnight or 1 a.m. We turn all the way up. And my kids have the same style, even though they were born here in the United States. And somebody overheard me and they were like, hey, like, you're really funny. You should be a stand-up comedian. And I remember thinking, like, how much money do those people make? Like, I need to be rich. I need health insurance. I need a 401k. I wanted to get out of poverty.
Is that a job? That's, I think, the question that I would have
Yeah.
not even considered at 8. It's funny, I am not a foreign child, but my mom didn't let us watch TV, and the things we could watch were SNL and Miami Vice.
Oh.
Really wild choices.
Those are like, they're both comedy, you know,
Sure.
if you really look at it. Just
All right, I want to transition to really what I wanted to talk to you about here, which is the show that you co-host,
Yes.
Muslim Matchmaker. I love it so much. In the show, you're finding daters, you're pairing them off, you're coaching them through the process. I have a few rapid fire questions. How'd you get into matchmaking? What made you so sure you could do this? And where did you find the audacity?
the audacity of it all.
Audacity.
You know, women have to be asked this question. Men never get asked, where did you
No.
find the audacity?
Well,
to
I
do-"
think one of the things that we like here is to like let women talk about how they found the audacity, because rarely are we invited into our audacity. And so like, I didn't mean that as an insult in any way. I totally meant it as a fuck yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even feel it that way, but I'm just saying, isn't that amazing? Like, we do have to ask those questions because we almost are seeking permission to be bold and to be
Yes.
ourselves. And because we grow up in a society where doing that can also be harmful and really risky for women. And so I love the question. I just want men to be asked the question, you know, because I really want to understand, where do they get the audacity to think that they can be at the head of a boardroom or know how to do something that they've like clearly lied about. But I for sure started matching on my brother. That's actually how I realized I was a good matchmaker, because I was like, this guy is so kind. He's a really good man, but he's like a diamond in the rough. He's very introverted. And I was like, I got to help him. I've got to swoop in and save my brother. He's 5 years older than me, by the way. But I just had this like feeling like I'm really good with other women.
You were literally managing up your brother's love life.
I was managing up his, and I wanted to see him glow up too. I was like, I'm waiting for him to come out of his shell, and I was really good with women. I was really good with girls. Like, I've always been a girl's girl. I don't have a ton of friends that are guys. I'm mostly around women and love them so much. And I'm only around men when I have to be. Like, that's the best way I can explain it, when it's like a complete. And then God gave me 2 of them to raise, and even the cat's a boy. So that's not been the easiest for me, but I'm learning. And I remember meeting a girl, and I thought, oh, like, this girl is like, she's just like kind and patient, and I feel like she would like bring out the best in him. And they were really like complementary matches, and I realized what I was doing, and I was like, oh, if I can do that with my brother, like, I think I can do that with other people. And so I started connecting people left and right, and then 58 marriages later in 18 years,
Incredible.
this is where we're at. And I was like, oh, I think I'm actually a connector. Like, I think that's what I am. And women have been connectors for so many centuries, and they have almost had exclusive dominion in this area of matchmaking. Not to say that men can't do it. I just think that it requires an emotional intelligence that naturally comes to women. And so men have to really work at it. And this just came naturally to me.
I love that. You know, it's funny. If I knew a male matchmaker, I'd probably ask him about his audacity. Like, how dare? What made you think you could do this?
Yes, totally. I'd be like, on what planet did a woman teach you how to do this exactly? I want to know.
And how did you pick it up skillfully? That's crazy.
So true.
One of the things that I loved about the show is how you showcase the cultural and ethnic diversity of Muslim Americans. The people on the show were Arab, Desi, Black, white. Some women wore hijabs, some did not, many did not. And this, of course, seemed quite intentional, but I wonder, was it difficult to find this diversity of Muslims who are also willing to showcase their search so publicly by being on a dating show?
Well, I think it's always hard to find people who want to be on a dating show. That's not an easy thing to show people, that you're going on this journey for real. Like, if it's for real, and the show is for real, that people really wanted to find love and connection. In terms of the diversity, it was so simple because honestly, like, Muslims are the single most ethnically and racially diverse religious minority here in the United States. So when you look at someone, you have absolutely no idea whether they're Muslim or not, because they could be from panoply of countries and backgrounds and racial and ethnic identities. And so it was just really, really kind of fun to see the people come forward. I don't think the trust part is hard because they're thinking, is this really going to be a show that represents us? Is this show for real? Are these people so for real? And we were. And I think that once people kind of dealt with us and knew that we loved them and were protecting them through the process, I think they felt like they could open up a lot more. But yeah, the diversity piece was simple. Getting people to trust us and be on screen part is not easy.
You really saw that diversity, like, obviously you saw it through the series, but I think in that first opening scene when you're in the cafe with your co-host and both of you were like, do you think they're Muslim? Are they Muslim? Are they married? When you're really you just see all kinds of different people and you guys are trying to like find the tells.
So true. And you're like, you know, what makes a person Muslim? And the truth is, like, just asking them is probably the best thing to do, because there's no way to really know. And even these days, like with a hijab on, like, you know, there could be people who are Jewish that are wearing a form of head covering. There could be people who are Sikh that are wearing a form of head covering, and people could easily confuse it for hijab, especially people who wear a turban hijab that could look like a turban that Sikhs wear.
And also a lot of West African women who are Muslim and who are not Muslim wear head wraps. And sometimes it means that they're Muslim and being modest in that way. And sometimes they're just wearing a head wrap because it's their cultural way of covering their head. I see that a lot. My father's Nigerian, actually Muslim. He was Muslim.
Oh, beautiful.
In my culture, yeah, people wear head wraps and it doesn't necessarily mean that they are Muslim. One of the things, just getting back to sort of the Muslimness of it, there was a lot of, you said this a lot, surrendering to Allah in this show that it was about matching romantically. Like your singles all had their ideas of what they wanted. They had likes, they had preferences. But in many of the conversations, it got to this, but it's in Allah's hands caveat. So how do you balance the in the world work of like literally trying to craft and create relationships with the surrender that was very evident in the show of like giving it to a higher power?
Yeah, I mean, that is the tall tale question for people of faith and who have a God-centric life, as many Muslims are attempting to do in this society. And I really think that Muslims believe that human beings are naturally good. They believe that we are born on what we call a fitra, which is a natural state of goodness. Like we want what's good and that we belong to God and that we will return to God. We belong to Allah, we will return to Allah. And we say that in times of calamity. We say that when someone has also passed. We say it when we lose something. It's just a reminder. And so love, I think, is the biggest sense of like, this is a magic that I can't create on my own. There is a divine beauty to it. There is a divine magic that is existing between two people when they're trying to figure out whether they're good for each other or not. And all we can do is take by what we call the asbab in Arabic and in our religion, which means we take by the means. So I see myself as a facilitator. I am a means. I am not the end. I don't control the end. And that's how I think everyone should approach love, especially if you're on the apps, especially if you're going out and you're in your particular church or synagogue or temple or mosque, or you're out just like talking to your friends. Like, remember, they're just means. They're not the end. And you should honestly employ every means possible to be able to find that love, but understand that the love part can't be controlled. It has to be a form of surrender. And in order for it to be like loving and natural, it can't be forced. And so that's the part that we are constantly, I think, oscillating between the two. Like, am I doing everything I could possibly do? And then am I truly surrendering? And that is the path of the Muslim as someone who surrenders or accepts fully God into their life and the will of God.
I really love that answer. And I think that really kind of shines through. The show is called Muslim Matchmaker, and it is primarily fully geared to Muslim Americans. But do you match non-Muslim people who are looking for lasting partnership?
So here's the thing. Our principles are universal, and you can use our process, including the rules of three, to really explore a deeper connection in an intentional way in the dating world, in any religion and from any background. I will say that as a Muslim myself and as a matchmaker in that community, I want to be authentic to my community. You know, people ask me, oh, why can't you do this? Or I'm like, I would love to do those things and you can use my principles, but I want to be honest about what my capacity is and what I'm authentic to and what I'm real to. And I think that's the best kind of like projects, art, all the things, all the love that you create, you do from the things that you know. And you do from a place of sincerity. So I would love for people to watch the show and be inspired, but I myself am matching the people that I know.
That makes sense. Speaking of matching people that you know, I cannot wait for season 2. I have my fingers crossed. But until we get grace with one, how are you continuing to match people?
So I'm constantly matching. I've been always matching. Like once a matchmaker, is just like in the blood. And me and HUZZAH work together almost every week. And we help just like bring people on the scene. Like, hey, I got this new person. Do you know someone in that city, etc.? So it's been a really wonderful partnership between me and her. And she's got her full blown matching business. And you can check her out at findloveia.com.
Okay, another phrase that you brought up that I think I got inferred, but I just want to I would love you to talk us through it. Flirt to convert.
Yes.
I was like, flirt to, I was like, what is that?
Yeah, that means that you are out here in the streets talking to people and meeting people with maybe hopefully the intention of just opening their eyes to a spiritual compatibility and to a world of Islam that maybe they had not known about. So I kind of want to flirt with you and have a conversation with you with the hopes of maybe giving you on our team and joining us, so that, you know, being Muslim is so simple. It's just a shahada. That's all you have to do. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. There is no God but God, and Muhammad is his final messenger. That's it. And you're Muslim. The bar is so low that sometimes I wish it was higher, but it's not my bar. It's God's bar.
You didn't set the bar.
That's what
you need a little more audacity.
Exactly. And you know, the 5 pillars of Islam is kind of like what we believe in. And most people are, it's like they practice 3 of them. And then the last 2 are, if you're rich enough, you know, if you're rich enough, you pay alms, you pay 2.5% of your basically disposable income to charity, or you go on the Hajj pilgrimage. But those are for people who are really wealthy. The first 3, the shahada, the witnessing of God and the Prophet, the prayer that we pray, and the fasting, that's for everybody. And that's it. You're Muslim.
And it's funny, I just want to go back to like the people, I don't want to say daters, because I feel like you guys were very much like, we're not dating. We're really building partnerships. We're getting
to know people. We're courting. We're connecting.
I did really love that the people on your show who were looking for love really had broad ways that they interpreted their faith, and that you guys made space and actually tried to find people who had complementary ways that they approach their faith, as opposed to like, what you need to do is put on a hijab and then stop like talking to the opposite sex.
Right. And the truth is that those ratios of what people kind of accept into their life and how they're adherent is a very big part of the lifestyle that you want to create with your partner. And so we want to be real with that. Like, having 2 people that practice differently or think differently and try to make them compatible and force them into something is not the way to have, I think, a beautiful, healthy relationship that's full of faith and grounded, again, in our final outcome. Marriage itself is a means. I talked about means before. Marriage is a means. The end goal is peace, fulfillment, and truly sharing your gift with the world. Make it a platform for you to spring forward and do what you were meant to do on this earth.
Yasmin, I'm so glad you came. And after binging Muslim Matchmaker, basically you were my friend in my head. And it seems like in person, you were just as charming and personable and fun and warm. And I love this. Can you tell our listeners where to find you and how they can get involved in everything else you're doing, including your comedy?
Well, thank you, Moji. I love you. I have honestly a sincere love for everybody. And I'm like a big ball of radiating love, and all of us are. And I think the more that we're clued into that, the better connectors that we are. And you can find me on Instagram at Yasmin Elhady. It's long. I don't want to ever be famous. That's why I did that. And then you can find me on TikTok at Yasmin_Elhady. And then you can check out all my tour dates upcoming through the US and the UK at www.yasminelhady.com.
Yasmin, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Bye.
You need to watch Muslim Matchmaker on Hulu the second this pod ends. Just go right there right now. And follow Yasmin on social media. The links will be in our show notes.
That's our show. Thanks for listening. And thanks again to Ollie. And be sure to donate to Care for All and help name their aspirator. See our show notes for the links.
Did we make you smarter? Make you laugh today? Show us some love by liking, subscribing, and giving a 5-star rating. Plus, stay connected with us on social media at Abortion Front across all platforms. With your help, we can get more people to learn about this assault on abortion access.
Looking for where you might fit in to do some abortion activism? We've got a multi-part activist training series, Operation Save Abortion, at operationsaveabortion.com. You can get an abortion activist glow up and learn about all the areas abortion providers and patients need your help. And while you're there, visit our super cool activist calendar, which is full of local and national actions and educational opportunities.
We've also got a great mutual aid program at Abortion Access Front called Adopt the Clinic, where the public can support independent clinics, abortion funds, clinic escort groups, and patients directly by ordering needed items from an org's wish list. This week, we are highlighting our friends at Care for All. You can donate directly to them or grab something for them off their Amazon wish list. They're asking for everything from diapers to face masks to hand warmers. And if you want to get more involved specifically with AAF, we need you. Sign up to volunteer at our website, aafront.org, and let's figure it out together.
We'll be dark next week, but we're back September 26th with special guest Kylie Ann Hunter, CEO of Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. We'll be discussing her work, the impact of jobs on people in the military, and more. And comedian and author Youngmi Mayer shows up to chat about her memoir titled I'm Laughing Because I'm Crying, where she examines growing up biracial in Korea and Saipan and how she found her sense of humor from her pain.
That's going to be a fantastic group of conversations. Also, everyone, join our Patreon. You'll support great content and get cool FBK merch and experiences. All pledges support this pod and all of our activism at Abortion Access Front. Pledge at patreon.com/feminist buzzkills. FBK is edited by Remy DeTournay and is produced by Jen Moon for Abortion Access Front.
And finally, we leave you with Indiana Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith, a man showing us his whole ass when he picks a side in a debate no one is having. Which is worse, rape or abortion?
So I believe in the case of life, that life begins at conception. If you, there's horrible things that happen in life, though. So when things like rape, especially rape of a child, happen, there needs to be severe consequences for the person who did that. I've always said that.
Like the person carrying the baby.
No,
that's a severe consequence.
What I've said, if we're going to allow one carve out, that would be the carve out where I would say, hey, this would be the carve out. If you're going to have an abortion in this consequence, you can do it here. However, this is my stipulation. I want that man who raped and caused that child now to be killed. I want that man to be charged for first-degree murder as well.
Feminist Buzzkills, the podcast from Abortion Access Front. New episodes drop Friday. When BS is poppin', we pop off. And if you want to support our podcast and all the work of Abortion Access Front, like, subscribe, and join our Patreon at patreon.com/feministbuzzkills.